You'll have to excuse me today because I've got a little bit of a sore throat. Now when we've made our pattern and we've cut along our style lines, the black lines that we've drawn out, when we've cut them out really perfectly, we then use them as a pattern. Now it's really important that you really iron your pieces flat because we're going to have to treat them like a paper pattern. And then basically we lay them on top of the fabric and we cut them out so that we just add 1/2 centimetre seam allowance to our pattern. So we don't add any seam allowance to the sides of the pattern, only to where we're going to be joining our colour block designs. Now it is really, really important that wherever we put those notches before, that you do actually do the notches. And what I tend to do is, I do them at right angles and I will stop at where the pattern begins. So then I know how deep to go in the seam allowance. So once you're happy that you've cut all your pieces out properly, it's time to begin sewing them together. Now I really recommend leave your pattern on top of your pattern pieces and just take the ones that you need as you sew, because it's really easy to get confused. Now the way we're going to do it is we're going to sew our patterns together in rows. So I'll do that row first, then that row, and then that row. And then after that, then we'll deal with joining them to the black bands. So the first thing that I'm going to do then is the top row. So I'll very carefully remove my pattern pieces just for now, and then I'm going to put the fabric right sides together and line up those notches. Now remember, I kept going on and on about those notches, so forget about the edges, just line up those notches. Oops. Like that. And then you're just going to sew with the 1/2 centimetre seam allowance that you allowed. Sticking to the seam allowance and lining up your notches, I'm going to go backwards and forwards first and just straight down, and then backwards and forwards at the end. So that's my first piece. So then I'm just going to add the blue piece on the other side. So once again, fabric right sides together, lining up your notches. So don't worry about if it doesn't line up at the bottom, because that would be your bad cutting or my bad cutting. Line up the notches, that's the important thing. Stick to the same seam allowance. And then just go straight to the end. Now we will be pressing this, but we'll press it when we've done all of our rows. So look, this is what we have so far. Now with these fabric patterns, when I've done my TR cutting course, they recommend that as you go along, you stick them back together again. And you use masking tape to do that, because it's just so easy to lose track of where all your pattern pieces go. And then when you've done that, you can safely put them to one side and you know where your pieces go. So now I'm moving on to one of the middle rows. So I'm going to use exactly the same method for that. So first of all, I'll take off my pattern pieces, trying to keep it all the right way up. And then I'm going to put it right sides together, line up the notches and just sew it in the same way with the same seam allowance. And then when you've sewn it, quickly put it back so you can see exactly the right way that it goes. So now I'm going to stitch this piece on and I'll put that pattern piece to one side for now. So remember, fabric right sides together, line up your notches, and then sew using a straight stitch. So hopefully you're starting to see how it all kind of comes together, and it really isn't that difficult once you've drafted the pattern. So I'm just going to do that to this row and this row before we begin the black horizontal bits. Now our final horizontal piece, we don't have to stitch together because it's all in one piece, so I'll just take that off. Now, so now we're ready to attach these black pieces on. Now this is really important that you mega stick to using all your notches, but before we do that actually I'm going to press my pieces so that my seam allowances go in towards the black. Today, because I didn't want to have to go out and buy all these different coloured fabrics, I'm just using lining fabric so I can see how the colours look. So you can always do like a mock-up, as I'm doing, in lining, and then if you like the way the colours look, then you can do it in a more expensive fabric. But give them a really good press now, because now is your opportunity to flatten out those seams. Right, I think we're going to begin at the bottom for this one. So I'm going to remove that bit of pattern there. I'm going to flip it over so we're right sides together, really keeping track of all of my notches, and then I'm going to stitch it together using the 1/2 centimetre seam allowance that I allowed. So it's just the same as before. The notches are important to line up, and you work to the same seam allowance that you allowed. Backs and forwards at the beginning. Line up those notches, which are at right angles to your seams. So look, see my seam, my notches. And then backwards and forwards at the end. So give it a good old press so that it goes towards the black. And remember, as you finish with each pattern piece, stick the pieces together with masking tape so you don't lose track. And now just move on to the next piece. Now what I would say is, now we did notches for where it lines up with the black bits, and because I'd say that that's the most important part, I'm going to fold it over, and I'm actually going to begin there because that's much more important to me that that lines up than the edges, although the edges are important too. So I'm going to begin there, lining up that black bit, go to the edge and then go to the other edge. I'm going to use the same rule for this band as well. So I will begin where these notches are because they are the important part, and I'll line them up with my band. I'll start there, go down, and then I'll start on the other side and go down. Right, now we're on the red section. So fabric right sides together. Actually, maybe I should show you this. As we're sewing, look, we're sticking to the seam allowance being pushed towards the black. So next section, fabric right sides together. Start at the notches that show you where you've got to position that black band, go to the edge and then go out to the other edge. Now this next bit is a little bit different, so let's just remove the pattern for a minute. Now you want to know where the middle is there, so hopefully you have put a notch where the middle is, and you're going to begin putting the fabric right sides together, lining up that notch, and then just working your way going out on that side, and then lining up the notches and working your way going out on the other side, starting in the middle. I'm lining up the notches in the middle, same seam allowance as before. Now even though the black is a curve, I'm just going to treat it like it's a straight line by just feeding the fabric along until it gets to the end. turn your fabric over, start in the middle again, and then start making your way out onto the other side. Now, in order for it to sit right, you might have to just give a few little snips onto that curve. Remember, wherever you've got curves, it's always nice to put a few little snips, because then it always sits a lot better. And then press it towards the black. Now, I'm using this very, very thin lining, so it isn't great, but you can see you get a little bit of a shape there of the bust because we incorporated that bust seam into the bust. Now you're going to do the same with this as well. Line up your notches and then just stitch it on. Now for me, my middle lines up with here, so I'm going to flip it over and I'll begin there. But that wasn't difficult, was it? That was easy. So thank you so much for watching Stitchless TV. Now all you have to do is just treat it as a regular shift dress and just use the regular shift dress back piece and sleeves and facing, and you've got a gorgeous Yves Saint Laurent inspired Mondrian colour block dress. Thank you so much for watching Stitchless TV. I'm sorry about my croaky voice, and I promise to make an appearance in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. See you again very soon. Bye!